Hey, what's up, everybody? All I can say this morning is buckle up. You're in for a ride, that's for sure. Hey, it's Mike, and this is Thursday Morning Live. Welcome. Glad that you're here today. Give everybody a couple of minutes here to log on. Remember, if you have a comment, if you have a question, throw it in the chat. Throw something in the chat anyhow this morning and just say hello, say good morning, say where you're from. Let us know that you're here. But I am excited about my guest this morning. My guest, Matt Friscia, is with Trans World Business Advisors of LaGrange. And we're going to get to Matt in a minute. We're going to talk about something a little bit different than what we normally talk about. Matt's a Chicago native, and we'll really get into some business strategies and techniques. So I'm looking forward to that. Hey, everybody, what's your intention this morning? Did you get up? Did you think through what you are grateful for? And not, I heard somebody say a week or so ago that it's not just being grateful for what you have, but it's grateful for who you are. Your work ethic, your integrity, however you live your life. What are you grateful for? And those things in your life. But even more important than that, when you hang on to that gratitude and you work on your intentionality and you build your business based on that, you build your direction based on that on a daily basis. Hey, I'm glad that you're here this morning. Let me bring our guest in real quick. Matt, good morning.
How are you?
How are you? It's been a while. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you and I got to, we actually met at a networking event in Schaumburg, which was a great event that was put on by Lori. I ought to have Lori on here one of these days. But I love doing this show because I bring different people on. I love to have people from the Chicago market on, kind of keep it local and just talk about different things. Don't always need to talk about real estate. That's for sure. So Matt, one question I always ask all my guests is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
Only because you gave me some prep on some of the stuff, I'd say driven. Seems like a pretty good word for me specifically.
Okay, driven. What in your life do you think makes you driven?
I think I'm kind of what we call ourselves at the office scrappy, right? I worked in corporate America for 15 years and started up a franchise with a territory and a business that I knew nothing about. Made every mistake in the book, but was able to turn that around in 5 years and sell it successfully. And then right now, that's how I got into business brokerage. Is sold my business. Thought that was really great with the B2B stuff that I'm doing right now. And I just think I've always been in that situation where I've also been in sales for a long time. Where you make what you take home. You gotta go out there. You gotta pound the pavement and talk to people and do things like this each and every day.
Yeah, we always say we eat what we kill, right?
Yeah, I was trying to give it the PC version. Yes, exactly that.
Yeah. So Matt, how'd you? So what's Trans World Business Advisors? What do you guys do, and how did you get into that?
Yeah, so Trends Business Advisors is a business brokerage company. What that means, because a lot of people don't know exactly what we do. So there's a couple things that we fall into. So one, it's the buying and selling of businesses. We usually work mostly on the sell side of things, but certainly if we have a really targeted buyer, we'll represent a buyer or go to market looking for what they're looking for. But we have over 35 listings at any given time, and we really focus and super serve the small business market, so Main Street USA. We do trip over what they call lower mid market sometimes, where our listings are the $100,000 dry cleaner down the street all the way up to the multi-million-dollar company. But being a small business owner, having been that and having had an SBA loan and paid that off, I got a soft heart for people that are out there every day running these small businesses. So we also do business valuations. So maybe you just don't know what your business is worth. Maybe you don't want to sell it, but you're going to sell it to an employee or a family member or down the road. We help with that. Maybe you have a really unique concept. So we help with franchising as well. So if you have a neat, unique concept and you think your business is quote unquote franchisable, we help you with that. And then the teeny tiny part of what we do is it's called franchise consultancy. So if we've shown you a bunch of businesses and you weren't into any of those, and maybe you like a franchise concept that you want to start a new territory from scratch, we could certainly show you 300 plus brands for that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this is a little bit different than what I normally talk about on my shows. I'm in the multifamily, the real estate space, help people buy apartment complexes. So businesses are, similar but different, right? Because a multifamily apartment complex is a business. We like to buy those businesses, go in, uh, repair them, make them operationally run better, and that's really what people do with your type of businesses, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's there is a lot of real estate crossover because I would say maybe 30-40% of the businesses that we have a real estate component to them. So if I own a business in a strip mall, maybe I own the strip mall, right? So when you're talking about, I know yours is kind of focused on residential, but in the same manner, we see people that come to us and are just diversifying what they do, right? So maybe they are successful in your segmentation of the market or investing, and this just happens to be another thing, right? So I do get very specific buyers that call me and say, just show me the businesses that have real estate. I just want the businesses that have real estate because I want to be involved in that. I want to know that that I have a hard asset, outside of just owning the business. But also, I'll say even for lending, I mean, it's a big part of that. You get a much longer note with a traditional SBA 7A loan. If there's real estate attached, you could go from a 10-year note to a 20-25-year note, and that's really really important. I mean, that could be a game changer for somebody in buying a business.
Hey, since we're on that topic of lending right now, how did the 75 basis point increase in interest rates that the Feds did yesterday impact your business?
Yeah, so I would say our business is a little bit of a lagging indicator. So there was a Q3 report that was just put out by a really popular site that a lot of us use, Biz Buy Sell. Um, and there's actually, if you search it out, there's a business broker with Transworld. His name is Michael Shea. He kind of just did a really good review of all that through his YouTube channel. But business sales are still extremely strong. What's happening now, though, is there might be a little bit more seller financing happening, right? And what that means is you bought a business, and instead of the bank giving you that money, sometimes they're encouraging the seller to hold paper, they call it, right? To have a note on that. So, okay, maybe I gave you 50% or 60 or 80% up front. But you as the seller, I want you to hold a note on it because you'd probably get a better rate, right? So maybe you'll do it at 5% or 6% versus the 7 or 8% from the traditional lending. What I will say though is people are still doing. I just talked to a lender yesterday, and he was like, "We're as bonker busy as ever," So I think what happens is the stock market's so up and down and so crazy right now that people are deploying money in these small businesses because it's just a different type of investment. It's a little bit more secure if you know what you're doing and you got some skin in the game to be able to run that. Or you I've seen people buy a lot of businesses and do really well because that's how they diversify their investments.
Yeah, there is a lot of crossover from what you're saying. I, I'm still underwriting and analyzing real estate deals right now. We're actually chasing a big deal down in the Dallas Fort Worth market, but we're going into a market, I think, that we're going to start to see sellers doing creative financing again, becoming the bank again. So it's interesting you bring that up, that when you buy a business, those sellers will do some financing and be creative on the sale of their company or business.
Yeah, and maybe it's to avoid taxes too. I mean, there's capital gains on everything. So just like in your world, it's like this helps the seller potentially to not have to pay all those capital gains up front when they're selling their business, right? I
Yeah.
would say not everybody does that. Some people are terrified. Well, what if this person tanks the business, and what am I going to do? And well, there's a promissory note, but there's a securities agreement with it as well. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I sold my business, I got the check and walked out the door. But obviously there's transition time there as well. But yeah, it just depends. I think some people get a higher price for their business if they're willing to do a little bit of seller financing.
Yeah. I think you were right about, there's that fear element sometimes with the seller where they don't want to do creative financing, but there's so many advantages to it from a tax standpoint.
100%.
And if you need some tax incentives or some tax breaks, there's great ways to do that. Matt, is there a popular business today that sells that people are looking for all the time? Is there, if I wanted to go buy a business, what's the chic, sexy business to go buy today?
So it's funny you say that because we're pretty agnostic as far as types of businesses and categories. I will say there's some book out there that I want to find it and burn it that everybody I want to buy a I want to buy a car wash or I want to buy a laundromat. And everybody thinks that like this is like the cat's meow, like, well, oh yeah, just that's an easy business to run. Well, it might be, but there's still things that happen in every single business. You know, when somebody doesn't show up for work or something breaks or you know whatever it is, like you still got to go fix that thing, you know, for whatever is involved with your business. I will say, and the only reason it's the small pet peeve of business brokers is I get a lot of people calling me saying, well, you know, I got 150 grand burning a hole in my pocket. I want to put it towards something or some financing, and I don't want to do any work, and I want the business to run itself, and I don't even have 10 hours a week to run the business, but I want it to spit out 200 grand for me a year, and it's
Yeah.
like it just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, and I would say, please go talk to somebody who does real estate or go to into the market or whatever it is. I mean, that there's going to be work involved in what you do when you get a business, even if it's a pretty good business that runs pretty well and it's pretty semi-absentee. And I just think a lot of people miss that, or their idea of buying a business is very turnkey. It can be, but you really got to put some skin in the game there until you kind of level it off to understand what you're doing. And last now, so you asked the initial question about some good categories. Categories we're seeing a lot of interest in when we put a listing up, when we get tremendous inquiries on it right now is daycares are extremely hot right now. So if you know how to run a daycare, get government funding, you know, tied in with some of those as well. HVAC right now seems pretty hot because in the state of Illinois, you don't need a license to do HVAC. So they kind of roll all these companies up. They're looking for guys in a truck that can, you know, okay, we'll just take that, we'll roll it up with our system that we already have there as well. Property management. If anybody has a property management company, I want to talk to them tomorrow if they want to sell that company actually as well. Service-based companies that people can tack onto things. And really, this is why when we talk to buyers that check in with us, they'll check in on a specific business, but we have extreme buyer pool, and with over 35 listings, they may check in on a business and maybe it just doesn't hit the mark, but we have enough cans of soup on the shelf to say, well, sounds like you're looking for this exactly. So would you consider X, Y, and Z? And we have some great conversations when we've sold some businesses on things that were in a category. Maybe a lot of it's real estate related, right? So if you're a real estate guy and you're managing a lot of properties, well, maybe a plumbing company does make sense for you because you're kind of paying through the nose every 5 minutes to handle your properties with that while
Yeah.
you're getting residential revenue ongoing. So I could kind of go on and on about some of the other healthcare is also very good because obviously that's, you know, in the senior care category, people are going to continue to get old. You can't not get old, right? You're always going to need help. Staffing's obviously an issue for everyone in every category right now. I mean, we hear it 6 times a day, but I just feel those people that can really plow through and can really make that happen and don't kind of, you know, cry and whine about what's going on and how they can't do it. I mean, they're going to succeed at almost anything that we have to sell.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say is if you find a property management company, you know you've got some buyers, right? Because just let me know. Because
Yeah,
either me or somebody I know is a buyer. So
there you go. There you go. Everybody and their mother will call in on it for sure.
hey, heading in, we're coming out of this really robust economy, this really robust market, heading into this valley. And I always tell people, I say, look, just because we're going into this valley doesn't mean not to buy real estate or not to buy a business or to do something. Because if you position yourself on the front side of the next bull market, that's where wealth is created, right?
100%.
So one question I have is in the valley, in the downside of this robust market we just had, what's a good business that somebody could buy or look for? What businesses really run well when the economy's down?
Okay, so great question. I kind of go back to healthcare again because basically healthcare is kind of recession proof, right, to some degree, right, where everybody's going to need help in some regard, right? Or if you're even an ancillary business around healthcare, that certainly is going to continue to be quote unquote recession proof, right? Um, Certainly some of those other businesses that are extra spends for consumers can be a little bit tough at times, but what we're finding is we're seeing people that just never really got out of COVID, when it happened. So they're selling their business because they want to move on to the next thing. The majority of what I have is I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80. My kids don't want my business.
Mm.
I don't know what to do with this. And honestly, I say outside of even the particular industry, it's a lot of people just trying to get out, right? So they've made their money through their business. And at this point, if somebody can pick it up and run with it, and even if they lose a little bit of revenue and they lose an employee or two in the transition, they still have a really, really solid base for what they need. And also think about things like that. People may or may not be staying in their homes, right? When they see these rates, that it's like, well, I mean, I could move and I might make a lot on my house, but boy, I'm going to be paying through the nose for the next mortgage that I have if I had a 3 or 4% mortgage, right? So
Yeah.
what I say, and you know what 1,000 times more about this than I do, but like I go back to those service-based companies for homes or things like even it's it's tough for auto businesses to sell to some degree, but people are keeping their cars longer, right? Same thing. There's not a ton of inventory. It's really expensive to buy a new car. Keep people are fixing up their houses because it's like, well, I'm just gonna stay. I'm just gonna stay, and if there's any crisis situations happening here in my home, I'll just fix it. We're gonna be here for a while. So anything in those ancillary businesses as well. But I mean, we got some really cool businesses too that I think we have like an auto rideshare business where people that can't afford to buy a car are renting these cars to drive Lyft, and it's a gig economy right now, right? So they're driving Lyft, they're driving Uber, they're driving Uber Eats, they're driving DoorDash, they're driving, you name it. And this guy's got a fleet of cars that somebody can use at any given time, and obviously he has an asset with autos that are kind of hard to get right now.
Yeah. So, so does he have a Turo business he's selling?
No, so he has, it's again confidentiality with all this. It's on our
Yeah. Yeah.
website at tworld.com/Lagrange. But his is it's a car rental business, but it's a rental business specifically for people that want to use autos for a third party web app source.
Oh, interesting. So you could rent those autos from him and then go do DoorDash or do Uber or wow, that's an interesting concept, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like to get access, he's got 150 cars. I mean, to get access to some of that stuff, it's not easy. It's not easy to secure 150 cars right now. It's practically impossible. So the fact that somebody and it's tied in with an auto repair shop. So bottom line is he's got those cars coming in every 10 days to get serviced and all that other fun stuff that's tied in with it. So what I love about my job is I see some really fun, unique businesses,
Yeah.
and everything's kind of an interesting, I didn't know you did that. That's kind of, we're looking at cash flow and we're helping them, with a multiple of cash flow to get what they want to get them to the finish line.
Couple quick questions here. What do you have to be licensed to be a business broker?
You do have to be registered in the state of Illinois. It's a little bit different than, so let's say in Wisconsin and Florida, you have to be a realtor to actually be a business broker. You have to have a realtor's license. You do not need that in the state of Illinois, but you do
Okay.
have to be registered. There is a background check that the state does. So you do have to be registered.
Who's your perfect client?
My perfect client is somebody that has good books. Good books is a big thing. You know what I mean? So if you have a business that you can show us what you're doing and you have clean books, and we sell stuff that isn't clean, and we sell asset sales where, really it's just the assets of the business that we're selling, but an easier business to sell or more explainable business is, hey, I've been in doing this for a while. I've done a good job. I can show everything where I'm making this money right now. And probably between in revenue, I mean, I'd hope they were doing $1 million in revenue plus for that type of thing. But again, we don't turn people away if there's an asset there that's worth like. I'm always surprised. We sell some stuff where I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think anybody would buy that. But there's a unicorn that sometimes walks in and says, man, I live down the street. I was looking for something like that, and I have some experience in that, and boy, I can take that and run with it. So it's I hate to pigeonhole ourselves too much, but that might be a good overview of what we're looking for.
So, do you have a you know? talk about a couple businesses. You've already talked about the car rental business. How about something that's kind of at the low end price wise of the spectrum to acquire, and then maybe something that you have right now at the upper end? What those businesses might be?
Yeah. So I'll say a couple different things too. I'll reference some businesses we recently sold as well because I think that fits in. We get some of these categories.
Okay.
So we saw the Learning Center franchise. That's another one that I think is a bit recession proof because if people are going to need help, they're going to need help, right? So if they're in the children coming out of COVID, a lot of them do need a lot of help still in regards. They just didn't get the right education during those, year and a half, 2 years at this point. That was a good one. That was somebody who's been in their business for 20 plus years and had a great business, great staff, had a great center director. So those type of businesses we enjoy selling and we've had those for sale. But I have everything from on the lower end of the scale. I've got some massage franchise locations that are really nice because there's really great franchise support that's tied in with them. I love this one specifically. It's tied to senior care, but it's not delivering care. So it's tied to a senior care marketing company that is really has no competitors, zero competitors on there. And these businesses are less than $200,000 to buy. There's some that there are some salons that we have as well where if you know that category or you know how to hire, or maybe you're coming out of salon school, or somebody that God, we've always wanted to do our own thing. We have some stuff that's available in that category as well. We have some retail stuff that's kind of interesting retail that's tied to that in some different facets. But there's about 4 or 5 pages of all of our listings. If you go to tworld.com/LaGrange, you navigate to buy a business. And you can just click through pages that's on there as well. I mean, some pizza franchise folks that we have as well. I don't mind. I mean, some people kind of love or hate the whole franchise thing. I had a good experience with it, and I know that sometimes that's a great divide for people, but it kind of comes with the cookbook to run a business. I always loved all my other franchisees. I still stay in touch with them all the time, and I liked it. And people go, oh, I don't like the revenue that's tied to it, or I don't like that I have to give a percentage away. Well, but there's a reason that 100 plus people probably have done what that you're going to do actually, and there's a model there. One final one that I really like as well. There's a guy that does home detailing. He does Christmas lights. He's like half of his revenue is in Christmas lights. I mean, it's unreal. Where it's like the guy's got 300 plus jobs. Just go hang Christmas lights and take them down. And some people would say, that sounds like an awful business, but man, is that a lucrative business? There's there's trucks that come with that. There's equipment that comes with that. I call it real estate related because again, it does tie with people that have homes, and it's like he's in a great area, affluent area where they can afford this. He was talking one of his jobs, there can be as much as 10 grand to put up Christmas lights. So I mean, there's some really fun, interesting businesses that are out there that might make sense to take a look at.
Yeah, interesting. We met somebody at the networking event we were at who is in the Christmas light business.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that. Independent guy. Yeah.
Did I ever connect you with Meg Schmidt?
I don't know. Actually, I don't remember that name.
Yeah, I remember at lunch you and I were talking about connecting you with Meg Schmidt, and I don't think I ever did that. My bad. I'll make sure that I do that today.
No worries.
Yeah, you guys need to connect. So I've had Meg on the show, and she sells franchises to franchise.
Oh, right on. So she would be more specifically on the franchise consultancy side. So I can see that where she's getting people to the doorway. It's not her job necessarily sell the franchise, but she gets people to the doorstep, and really it's the franchisor's job to sell them the franchise. Right. Which is, those are like career coaches almost. They do. And honestly, when I bought my franchise, I didn't even know I was working with a franchise broker. It was this random guy who was at a franchise expo. He's like, "I'll read this book. It's all about owning your own business." And I was like, okay. So I read the book cover to cover in like 2 days. And he started putting me through these questions and what do you think? And what do you think? And what do you think? And I didn't know he got a nice commission once I bought a franchise, but I didn't care. I didn't pay for it. That's how they get franchisees.
Right, for sure. So, what do you see happening now? Will your business slow down in this market, or will it pick up?
I haven't seen it slow down at all, and I don't think it's on the way to slowing down because I think what's happening again, people diversify their investments, and they're always looking for a deal, and there's always looking for somebody to take on to the next thing that's either in a category they know or just trying to diversify their investments. I think a small business helps with that diversification. And yeah, there might be less that are borrowing from the SBA because of some of the loans, but to be honest, even with those SBA loans, even the rates that are out there right now, I mean, they're pretty similar to the rates that I had when I had my SBA loan, more than 7 years ago.
Do most businesses come with real estate also?
Good question. I wouldn't say all of ours do. I'd say maybe 30, 40% max come with real estate. But again, that could be just the business that we play in. We are not commercial realtors. Currently, I have no desire to be a commercial realtor, but we bring in third-party commercial realtors to our deal. And I think that's how we create more relationships as well, is because if somebody has real estate, I'm very open to say, listen, you don't have to put it on the MLS right now. It doesn't have to be public knowledge, but you should be engaged with a realtor to make sure all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed for that part of the transaction when we get across the finish line. They get a little confused because they say, well, I don't know. I thought I was working with you. No, you're working with both of us. You're working as a team. We like to be a Swiss Army knife to people as well and give them resources. We're very buyer friendly. We'll give you 10 different banks to work with. If you need a lawyer that does business transactions, because people try to do a business transaction. I'm going to use my divorce attorney from 6 years ago. It's like whoa, like let's not do that. Let's use, because that can slow up the process pretty quickly. Or there's CPA. I mean, you're like a team. So if it's a triangle, if you're looking at a triangle and we're the tip of the spear, bringing all those people, those buyers to you, you got to have a good lawyer, you got to have a good CPA, and that kind of helps you get across the finish line.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever read the book by Michael Gerber, E-Myth?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So, what made me think about that was when you said, hey, if you're somebody that's coming out of beauty school, or cosmetology school, the one thing that I really liked about Michael Gerber in that book, right, is that he says that if you are, most entrepreneurs go into a seizure or a coma because they think because they're a carpenter, they can go open a construction company. When you'd be better off being a carpenter, go buying a veterinarian office, or being a veterinarian going and buying a construction company, because you don't know enough about that business to get caught up in the day-to-day, banging nails. Like for me, when I had my construction company, I was still in the field banging nails. I burned out, and one day just burned out, and I wound up selling my company and going into real estate then. But that's a whole nother story. So
you're making a great point there, because we do meet people where they say, boy, why do I have to deal with all this other stuff? I just, like, we have, I'm a cake decorator. I just want to decorate cakes, and it's like, well, yeah, you got to do payroll and you got to do all these other things, that tie in with it. You got to be a leader. And some people just get annoyed.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the business part.
I always say being an entrepreneur, you're doing the hiring, the firing, the marketing, the sales, the ordering, the bookkeeping, the stuff still in the field in most cases. So, hey, man,
especially at the beginning.
Thanks for being on this morning. I appreciate it. Good to connect again. Hey, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it. 2 or 3 ways you can get a hold of us. You see our email down there. That comes to the office. That comes directly to me. It's pretty snazzy here what you got as far as this whole little operation. But the second thing is, I do always encourage people to go to tworld.com. So that's T as in Tom, world.com/LaGrange. That's our specific office. So you can see all of our listings on there. Transworld has 4 or 5 other offices here in the Chicagoland area. We always co-broker. I just want to say that for anybody that works with a business broker, please ask if they co-broker, because there's a lot of them out there that don't. And I just think it's a disservice to help you get across the finish line there as well. I mean, and nobody remembers phone numbers, but I'll give you ours for our office: 708-328-8800, 708-328-8800.
Perfect. Hey, Matt, thanks for being on. If you hang out with me in the back room for a minute, I'm just going to say goodbye.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Right. Thanks. Hey everybody, that was an interesting show this morning. I can't believe how quick the time went by either. I looked up and we were already into this for about 30 minutes. So hey, I appreciate everybody being here. If I can answer any questions, if Matt can answer any questions, reach out to Matt, reach out to me. We're here every Thursday morning. If you know someone from the Chicago market, an entrepreneur, a business owner, somebody who would benefit from being on this show, getting a little exposure and that we could all learn from, please refer them to me. I love to have people on and talk about their business and different ideas, different strategies, especially in the world and the market that we're moving into right now. Remember, be intentional about what you do in everything that you do. Little side note, I have a